Okay, this is the first part of what will be several video lectures for Sissonville High School on our unit on learning. We've missed class Wednesday, and obviously we're missing today because of weather. Not sure what next week is going to bring, but what I've decided to do is to go ahead and video lecture the unit on learning. Now you need to be reading still the chapters in your book, in case you forgot what it looks like. Looks like that. Chapters 4 and 5, and I'm looking at those chapters right now to make sure I'm giving you the right numbers. If you have an older book, just make sure you read the chapters on learning and memory. They're separate chapters, but we're covering them together. Now, it's more interesting and fun to talk about serial killers and the weird, creepy stuff actually in class. So I want to save our class time to continue our discussion of that. Now, I'm required to cover the basic concepts as they relate to learning and memory, so I'm going to do it in this fashion. We're going to get into some pretty complicated stuff, especially with learning, and it might be better for you to have this video so you can go back to it, you can watch it repeatedly, you can slow it down, as opposed to just rushing through it in a 40-minute class, and then, this might be a better format. Now, I want to just introduce you, first of all, to what learning is. Just some ideas about learning. You need to take notes, by the way. Treat these just like you would an in-class session. And I'll prompt you as we go in terms of what you need to write down. And probably I'm going to ask you to submit these notes to me because this is a really important part of this unit. And I need to make sure that we're all on the same page and understand the concepts. So I will ask you at some point to submit these notes. I'll send you an email. Probably I'm going to ask you to have them to me by Friday a week from today. So again, all right. So what does it mean to learn something? This is a question I always ask in class. What does it mean? Does it mean that we're memorizing stuff? When you think of tests that you take in school, you have to regurgitate, memorize stuff. Is that really learning? Maybe, maybe not. What else does it mean to learn? Is it not just memory? Does it have to do with physical changes? Does your brain actually change when you learn something? It kind of does. Does it grow? Does it expand? Kind of like a balloon when you put water in it. When you put knowledge in your brain, does it expand? Not necessarily, but it does change shape. And we'll talk about that too. So be thinking about what it means to learn. Learning isn't just sitting in a class and taking tests and making good grades. There's a lot more to it. So how does learning happen? Do you think things out? I mean, have you ever thought your way through a problem? Maybe it was a math problem or an equation or something of that sort. We can read independently. Sometimes you read books or you go online and you go on your phones and you look at stuff and read. You can learn that way. I recently learned about a lot of stuff kind of unrelated to this class that was happening in the world of sports just by going on my phone and looking and reading stuff. It would be great if we could learn by osmosis, if you could just hold the book to your head and absorb the knowledge. It doesn't work that way. We learn in schools. We also learn by watching other people. If you've played sports, or if you've done anything like that, you've probably learned how to play your sport by watching other people. So, where does learning happen? Where does it come from? It's kind of a typo there. There should be some ellipses right there. So where does learning happen and where does it come from? Well, I submit to you, and you'll want to just make some general notes. This is a good slide to kind of jot down. It comes from these social institutions. In sociology, we talk about social institutions like family, school, the media, religion. These are organized systems that sort of set forth what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to live our lives. We certainly learn a lot from our families. You learn, rules about what is right and what is wrong. You learn how to get along with people in your family. You learn how to take turns. You learn how to share. Some of the same lessons in school. In school, you learn academic stuff, but you also learn how to wait your turn. You learn how to sit in a classroom. You learn how to respect authority, teachers, etc., etc. And work, the media. The media teaches us a lot. Some good things and some not so good things. We learn some good things from the media, but we also learn bad things like how we're supposed to look, what it means to be popular and what it means to maintain that popularity, what we're supposed to do, who we're supposed to hang out with, the clothes we're supposed to wear. Religion, organized religion teaches us a lot of things, morality, the way to live your life. So learning doesn't just happen here in school. School is a very small part of the learning process for any of us. So certainly we learn from our families. If you are inclined to believe in a specific religion, or if you're of a specific faith, then that religion or faith is going to teach you. You're going to learn things. Certainly we learn things in school, and also from the media. Those are the big four, the four major social institutions that teach us. Now, research tells us that teachers, we have it wrong. As instructors, as teachers, we're kind of going about this the wrong way. The classroom setting isn't always the best setting for learning to occur, and the research bears that out. And this pyramid, this is another good one to have. I would take some notes on that. Maybe just capture an image with your phone if you want to save it that way would be fine. But what we understand to be true, and this is research-based, we learn the best. You can start at the bottom of the pyramid here. 90%. We're talking about average student retention rates. When you teach others, you learn it better. And I have discovered that. Being a teacher for almost 20 years, I have learned more being a teacher than I ever learned being a student. Because when you have to teach other people and explain things and know what you're talking about and be able to show it, then you learn it. Practice doing, 75% retention rate. So if you practice it, whether it's a skill like at sports, softball's coming up. Some of you say that you play softball. You practice, right? When I played baseball, when I played third base, I practiced. I took ground balls. I fielded ground balls repeatedly over and over and over again. I put myself in running situations where I had to figure out if the ball's hit to a certain spot, where do I run? How many outs are there? You could do this with any sport, and you practice this over and over again, and you learn. You learn the ins and outs of your sport, for example, by doing it. Discussion. That's why I like to encourage discussion in my classes. 50% retention rate. If you talk about a topic, it could be one that you're passionate about, perhaps. Then if you talk to others and you get other ideas from other students, not just the all-knowing teachers, because I'm being sarcastic, we don't know everything. So when you talk to others, it enlightens you, it gives you more perspective, helps you learn even better. And then we get down to demonstration, audio, visual, reading, and lecture. Teachers who just lecture without anything to look at, retention rates stink for their students. They don't really take that in very well. They may take it in rather, but they don't learn it very well. Lecture combined with reading, combined with audio visual, the three here at the top, those tend to be the methods of preference, if you will, for teachers, whether it's high school or college or graduate school. So that's why as an instructor I try to incorporate all of these things in. We're going to be practicing, we're going to be talking, we're going to be discussing, I'm going to try to combine all of these different areas or avenues of learning. So that's an important thing to have. Now, student-centered and blended learning. Research goes back to the 40s and 50s on self-paced learning. With online classes, maybe some of you have taken an online class. We call those web-based assessments. This is one of the newer modes of learning. Some people learn better by themselves, reading books, watching demonstrations online, without an instructor 3 days a week at a certain time. Others need that face-to-face teacher-classroom interaction. Everyone learns differently, and everybody has a little bit of a different combination of methods that works the best for them. We can see we have teacher-led instruction, web-based assessment, computer-mediated instruction, printed instruction. And I try to use all of these. I try to, like we're doing right now, we're doing web-based stuff now. I'm doing computer-mediated instruction. And I am the teacher, so I guess I am kind of leading the instruction. And I also provide printed materials when I email them to you to print out. So I try to use all of these to maximize learning because, again, everybody learns a little bit differently. Now, we can also talk, we're not going to do it right away in this unit, but we could talk about students with disabilities. There are some things that get in the way of learning. We could talk about, proper diet, lack of sleep, family problems, fight with a significant other. If any of these things happen before a class, it's going to impede or it's going to get in the way of your ability to learn effectively during that class period. Head injury, sickness, illness. You all have probably can think of times where you've come to school because even though you're sick, because you feel like you have to be there because there's an exam or there's something important going on and you just don't want to fall behind, so you make yourself go. And you probably don't learn as well or as efficiently because you're sick or because your head's hurting or whatever the reason may be. Now, you can kind of see here specific learning disabilities, and these are keyed. You can kind of focus in on this, pause it, maybe get this on your phone as well. Learning disabilities are the biggest impairment to learning. Speech and language problems are the second biggest, and you can see, and you can kind of work your way around to see how that works. And we'll talk about some of those as we go. Learning by experience. I'm going to end with the next couple slides, the first part of this presentation. I've learned some things from being married for 16 years. I've learned that the woman is always right. I've learned that even when I am right, still my wife is right. I've learned that I can't cook, do laundry, pay bills, or shop for groceries, at least not very well. I learned what curling irons were. I did not know what a curling iron was, had never seen one, had no reason to know until I got married. I had no sisters, my mother never used one that I know of, just didn't know. So we're married, I go into the bathroom one morning and I see this thing plugged into the wall. I'm thinking, what in the world is this thing? All I knew is that it was in my way. I needed to brush my teeth, it was in my way, so I did what any man would do. I put my hand on it, grabbed it to move it out of my way, not realizing it was 5,000 freaking degrees, and I still have the calluses on my hand to this day. So definitely I learned from experience. The best lessons in life we learn are the ones that we learn through experience, not really in a classroom necessarily. And of course the bottom 2 points, my wife watches me put this together, so I have to put some brown nosing points down there at the bottom of that slide. So having some fun with that slide, obviously. That's my wife telling me what to do. Also, again, learning through experience. You can think of something dumb that you've done or something awful that you did that hurt yourself, maybe resulted in an injury. You probably learn not to do that anymore. Don't touch a hot stove, it'll burn you. Don't touch a curling iron, it'll burn you. And if you learn that lesson, then you're going to be doing okay. So, and this will be our last slide. I was having some fun with the stuff with my wife, obviously, but we learn in different ways. Now, I want to give you a definition of learning, and then we're going to stop this part of the PowerPoint, and then we'll move on to the next. So it's hard to define learning, so I'm going to try it. Learning is a relatively permanent change in an organism's behavior that's due to experience. That's one you want to have in your notes. A relatively permanent change in an organism's behavior due to experience. Now, in the next PowerPoint presentation, we're going to start talking about what that really means, and we're going to start dissecting different components of this definition. So we'll go ahead and stop that and call that the end of this part. Thanks.